Welcome to Connected, where no topic is off topic. I am your host, Kimberly Dam. Okay, here we go. Welcome back, you guys. So today I'm talking about presence. Let me say it again. Presence. So funny how this topic came. Well, okay, so I've known for probably like 5 weeks that I'm doing this topic today. But the funny thing is so let me just invite you into my world for a second. I meant to actually record this episode 2 days ago. And I hit a massive wall. I was not feeling good. I did not have the Rona, people. I've been healthy throughout by not wearing a mask and exposing myself to every single little tiny morsel of bacteria and virus that is out in the world, because that's how I roll. But anyway, I kind of hit a wall of exhaustion, and I couldn't bring myself to do this episode. Well, actually what happened is I woke up in the morning, I had the intention to record it, and then I just said, if I'm really honest with myself, I can't, not today. And I didn't quite feel up to it yesterday either. And then what was really beautiful is I didn't really know what I was going to cover in this episode. I mean, I knew, right? But I didn't. And what was remarkable is I was sitting out on my back deck and I was gratitude journaling. I know, I'm disgusting. I was gratitude journaling. And then weirdly, that morphed into somewhat of an outline of what I wanted to cover today. So see, my loves, we have to trust the timing of everything. And the only way that I was able to roll with that timing was by being present. Okay, so this is what I want to say about presence. Okay. So presence, because a lot of people ask me this. They're like, well, what do you mean be more present? And I know, yes, I know we're not all idiots. I get that you understand the general meaning, but it's the quality, right? It's the quality of how you approach things. It's the quality and the kind of the mindsets the belief systems that you set up around things that really kind of allow you to be more present. Because I think so many times we just think, oh, I'm just going to be more present. Okay, let me sit here. I'm present. I'm present. I'm still present. And we're like, okay, so I'm just supposed to do this eternally? Why, yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. No. So what I mean by presence is, to me, presence is basically the ability to interact with life as it's unfolding and to, really stay within the present moment, not be thinking about the past, not really dedicating a whole lot of thought to the future. And I'll get to that in a minute because I can hear all of you screaming, but what about my dreams and goals? Everything that I want to manifest, Kim, what about all of that? So anyway, hold on, I'll get there. But really, that's what it's about to me. It's about just being able to allow myself, excuse me, to pay attention and be flexible. We really need to be willing to dance with life. And in order for us to do that, I hate to say it, but we have to kind of let go of our plans, our schedules, our routines, things that we think we should do, ways in which we should achieve things. All of that stuff kind of has to go. Because if you're really wanting to be more present, you have to understand the value of presence. Because I feel like you kind of have to adopt an entirely different value system. You have to kind of truly understand that, if you're not present, things aren't going to necessarily come with as much ease. Things aren't, your answers and solutions aren't going to come with you or come to you. You're really going to have to seek more of them out. So it's just really more of a way of living and approaching life, right? It's either this goal oriented, very external, go, 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 get, or it's this more receptive mentality of like, I'm going to stay present and I'm going to trust that whatever solutions, answers, feedback I need, I'm going to receive it. But the only way that I'm going to be able to receive it is if I stay present. So something that I always say to people is, if you're asking, like if you're literally, okay, because I have a very flexible schedule. I work for myself, which means that if I get up in the morning and if I decide that I want to go surfing, I can do that. But so many people have the same lifestyle that I do, but so many people get up and say, I want to go surfing, but I can't because I already had in my head that I was going to accomplish ABCD today. And if I go surfing, then what? Then it like throws my entire day off. And then I risk not necessarily getting those things done. And what I'm here to kind of tell you is more often than not, and I would say, honestly, it's just a better state to be in if you allow yourself to answer those desires and answer those inklings and go surfing and then see how the rest of your day flows or flows and unfolds. It's actually far more authentic. It comes with far more ease. And I think that because it's our natural state of being, it feels so simple. So unfortunately, like when you're wanting to live more in the present moment, you kind of have to get away from asking like, what am I going to do today? Because the minute that you ask that question, or what should I do today? Or what am I going to get done today? The minute you ask that question, you're already removing yourself from the present moment. And and I'll say this, which is kind of, I mean, it's related, but not really. But even when you're asking yourself, what should I do? Or what am I going to do? You're already assuming that you don't have the answers, or that the answers aren't going to come to you. And so it actually is kind of like coming from a place of lack. So just be mindful of that with like other aspects of your life. Like whenever you're faced with a challenge and you're like, God, what am I going to do? Trust. No, the answers they will be provided to you. You just have to stay present and allow that to happen. So the other thing that I want to point out with the whole, precedence, or we place so much importance on asking, what am I going to do? What should I get done? You're already when you do that, you're already assuming that your worth is derived from what you're doing rather than how you're being. And just something that I've learned, it's actually way more important for us to focus on how we're feeling and getting that to be of a higher level, or a vibration, if you like that word, than to sit there and say, okay, so in order for me to be successful, I have to accomplish A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P today. And then I'll get a new home, or I'll get a new car, or I'll have the life that I've always wanted to create for myself. Because the truth of the matter is there's people working their asses off everywhere and they're not that happy. Some of them are, but if they are, it's most likely because their vibration is also in tune with their actions. And we're going to get to that in a whole nother episode. But anyway, so whenever you're doing that, whenever you're asking yourself, what am I going to do? What should I do? What have I done? You're really just placing a lot of value on what you do instead of how you be within the world. And to me, you can also phrase that in saying like how you are. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but it's like, I'm not as interested in what you do in the world. I'm more interested in who you are in the world. So anyway, I want to next talk about ways in which why we resist this sort of thing, because I feel a lot of people say to me a lot of times, they're like, well, if being is our natural state because of the whole human being thing, then why do we resist it so much? Because it doesn't make any sense. If it was that easy, why do I have to work at it? Well, so funny thing. It is your natural state. You have been taught the opposite, which is why you're having to unlearn all of that. And so it appears like work to return you back to your original form, your original state of being. Our precedents in this world that we have been living in for the past, I would say, let's see here. I have to remind myself that we're in 2021. So I want to say for the last century, or no, century? That would bring me to, no, I'm totally kidding, you guys. I would say for, the last century to probably, we've kind of had a focus on doing for a long time, but I want to say kind of with the Industrial Revolution and all of that stuff is, to me, is really when things started becoming a very do-centered civilization. But let's just ignore that for a second. We basically, in the world that we're living today, the conditioning that we have from a very, very young age is that we basically teach our sons, our daughters, and you were taught that you are more valuable if you're doing something, right? It's and by doing, I mean that can even include sitting on the couch, because you're still doing, you're not exactly being. Being to me is more I guess it's more of an intentional interacting with life as it is. And if that means that you want to sit down and watch television, then that's okay. But it's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we've created a culture of do, and that's what we value. And unless you do, you're of no value. You make no contribution to society. You're not worthy. Unless you have a plan and are executing that plan in this world, you are not worthy. And if you don't have follow through on that plan, or if you don't have what it takes to execute and deliver on that plan, then you're a failure. You have ADD, ADHD, something is wrong with you. You're basically seen as a lower member of society. The other reason why we resist it is because we also have been conditioned to not feel. And feeling it's literally, what do I want to call it? Feeling is the platform that you jump off of to be. Because in order for you to truly be in the present moment, you have to be willing to accept things just as they are. And that means accepting your feelings as just what they are. So I'll go back to my example of waking up and feeling like going surfing. If I feel like going surfing, but I deny myself that feeling, and if I don't stay in that feeling, and if I don't act on that feeling, then I could be potentially, which I would 100% argue that it's a big fat absolutely, I would be absolutely disconnecting myself from any opportunities that could, or any lessons or any synchronicities that could be connecting myself to a purpose that I potentially, that I wouldn't be able to see. Does that make sense? There is so much potential in every single day. I believe that one of our biggest struggles is that we are limited in what our view of potential is, and we unfortunately get kind of into these shoulds. What am I going to do? And if you did anything the day before, most likely you get into the habit of that. And so when you're not bringing the focus to what you're feeling, you're restricting that way down. Like it's like tunnel vision. If you get up in the morning and you have all of these things that you need to check off your list, and you're so blinded by those things, it overtakes any presence that you could benefit from. It takes, and by that's so weird because I didn't, but like, let's think about that. It takes away any presence, as in presents. It takes away any presence that you could be receiving by being present. So feeling to me is the platform by which we fall into being. It's literally being right here with ourselves. And that, I mean, there's a whole slew of problems that come with that, right? I mean, I believe honestly that one of the number one causes of depression is not allowing us to feel depressed. Not allowing us to feel the pain, the suffering, the loss. And so what happens is, because we don't allow it, we suppress it, it stays in our body, it has nowhere to move. This is just my perspective. But feelings need to move. It's simply just energy. That's all it is. It needs to move. And so what happens is, when we're not allowing ourselves to feel a certain way, we're essentially keeping that energy stuck within us. Because our body's like, well, how else are you going to get rid of this? Will you get rid of this already? Cry. Please do something. Do something. Wail. Do something. And we're like, no. Or sometimes we just can't put our hands on what we feel. And so we're like, I'm depressed, but I don't want to be depressed. I'm depressed, but I don't want to be depressed. Be depressed. But I think the thing is that's the problem, is so often when we just don't want to feel our feelings. But what I mean is, feel our feelings on all account. It's like we just don't want to feel, period. And so we live in this society where we've been taught, we haven't been given the proper tools or the proper resources or the proper education around experiencing and tapping into what we feel, that it's literally impossible for us to understand how to be present. The other thing is because we're such a goal-oriented, outcome-focused society, we're always thinking that our happiness, our contentedness, our joy is outside of us, and usually at a different time. It's not right now, right? Our happiness is not right now. It's usually when we've achieved this, when the outcome is this, when I get a better grasp on, certain skill sets so that I can have a better job, so that I can have more money, so that I can then have a house and have all of these things that I envision. Then I'll be happy. Then I'll be content. Can you be happy and content now in the present moment? So truly, we live in a society that is it's literally the antithesis to the present moment. The other reason that I see that this is played out is we've kind of become spiritually devoid, disconnected, vacant. Over time, unfortunately, people have pulled more and more away from religion. I don't want to judge whether or not that's unfortunate or whether it's fortunate. I mean, to be honest, I have my own problems around religion and dogma, but we're spiritually disconnected. And one of the easiest ways to build a society to be that way is to focus on doing rather than being. Because there's no, because in spirituality, the value is placed on being, not doing. So that's another way that this kind of is enforced, is that we don't have that. We don't have that connection. And so we don't value present moment. So I want to now discuss, I'm sorry if this feels very like structured, but I wanted to talk about ways in which, because I find that so many of us were like, okay, well, this is all well and good, but like, how can I be more present without sitting here and being like, watching, nature or chimes or, and not that those aren't beautiful things to help you and to ground you into the present moment. They actually are. I would always suggest being out in nature, going for hikes, walks, sitting on your back porch, watching the wind blow, because that really does help. But I know a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, what could I do in addition to that? Well, essentially, to be more present, you have to shift your values. You have to shift your values away from everything that you've ever been taught. I mean, not maybe everything you've ever been taught. You can be a person of integrity. You can be honest, all of that good stuff. But you really have to shift your values into placing more importance on being rather than doing. You have to understand that your doing equates to nothing. And I know you're like, but wait, no, because we're here to take action. Yeah, yes, I agree with that. I'm in Aries. I get that. But at the same token, what if your doing can naturally come out of your being? And I think that that's what we don't understand. Being is the essence. Being naturally inspires you to do. It naturally inspires you to take action. My question is to you, are you doing it from that space, or are you doing it from a different space? Are you doing it from a space of, I am worried about a future potential outcome, and so I'm doing this now? Or for example, I'm worried that if I act on going surfing, that then I'm not going to make as much money this month. And then that's going to put me in debt. Blah, blah, blah. So you have to really shift your values to place more importance on the being. And how do you do that? Well, going back to what I said before, you have to feel what you feel when you feel it. You also have to validate your own experience. I think that's something that we all, honestly, that's something that we just all need to give ourselves, is the validation of our own experience. I'll be talking about that probably next season, because I feel that so often we get so tripped up by our wounding, right? And what happens is then we look to others to validate our experience, and it might happen, it may not happen, it might happen just a little, it might happen somewhere in between, or it just may never hit the mark of like them doing enough to validate our own experience. So we just get stuck. So to me, like, part of really owning presence and being present is validating your own experience, because that allows you to feel what you feel when you feel it. The other thing that we have to do is be flexible with our time, with our ideas around time, with our schedules, with our routines. There's this massive belief that we achieve things by being disciplined and being like having routines. Now, I'm not going to discredit that entirely. I do believe that some people absolutely, like, it works for them to have a routine. It works for them to have schedules, all of that, to become successful. But again, that's also saying that you can't be successful unless you're planning and unless you're executing. And I simply don't believe that. Because if that's the case, then my trees are failing miserably. If that's the case, then the birds are not getting their shit done. Birds are not thinking about tomorrow. Birds are not thinking about yesterday. They're literally out there doing whatever it is that they do, moment to moment, chirp to chirp, without any thought. A flower does not think, how do I bloom? It just does from moment to moment. So we have to be more flexible with our time, with the construct of time, with our routines, our schedules, our plans, our goals, all of that. We have to also take stock of our energy levels and honor them. And that kind of goes back to feeling what we feel when we feel it. It's okay for you to be fucking tired. It's okay. I don't know about any of you, but I am so sick and tired of me feeling guilty when I tell another human being that I'm exhausted or that I'm tired. Why do we feel bad about that? We're here literally living our lives. We're doing the best that we can. And yet, if I tell another person who happens to be more quote unquote accomplished than me, or more quote unquote, they're out there achieving their goals, more goal oriented than me, I feel like a loser when I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like, it's okay to be fucking tired. It's okay. It's okay to be fucking sad. Like, honest to God, if you're living in this world and you're not sad, then you're a psychopath. Like, something is wrong with you. Okay. Oh. But yeah, so taking stock of your energy levels and honoring them and shutting that shit down too. Like, if you're exhausted, pay attention. Why? What is taking up your energy? Could it be allocated differently? Are you allowing somebody to drain your energy? Do you have any vampiric personalities around you? So take stock of that and be a gatekeeper of it. Don't just sit there and be a victim to things that take your energy. In order for you to become, or for all of us to become more present, we have to become less goal-driven and more driven by life, or as I like to call it, God. I go back to my whole idea around presence is being able to interact, having the ability to interact with life as it's unfolding. And I think about like what life is. Life is ever evolving, ever changing energy. It's literally energy in motion. It never stops. And so if you're wanting to play with that, if you're wanting to dance with that, then you got to kind of let your goals go a little bit. You have to become more detached. That's not saying that you're not going to accomplish your goals. Because again, in a future episode, when I talk about manifestation, we'll talk about the fact that energy responds. It's not just, this thing that, there's a reciprocity to it. It's a conversation. And so if you're worried that letting go of your goals is going to, alter your outcome, that's not at all what I'm saying. I feel that sometimes when we have goals, we just become so rigid in how we're going to accomplish those. And so that's where the planning and that's where we become inflexible and we just are thinking that if we go and if we take care of ourselves for a half an hour in the morning, or if we sit on the porch and dedicate some time to presence, then that is going to keep us, that's going to keep us at arm's length from achieving what it is that we want to achieve. We can say this about self-love, right? It's like, if you don't treat yourself well, you're not taking the time. So you can dedicate that time to achieving your goals, but that's simply not true. You're just going to feel like crap along the way. And so what's the point? You can have intentions and dreams, but once you've let them drain you, you've lost. You've lost. So my best advice is to just become more slightly attached when it comes to your goals. Let life communicate the path. And the way to do that is through the present moment. The other way that we can all become more present is by taking time, which I kind of already said this, taking time to connect with God or nature every day. This does go back into a little bit of spirituality. Look, spirituality to me isn't necessarily believing in a specific anything. It's more or less just understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, that you are just as much spiritual. You are just as much a spiritual being as you are a human being. That's all that is. And so whatever that looks like for you, to take time out to connect with that part of yourself. So whether that's meditation, whether it's dancing, whether it's prayer, whether it's going for a walk in the woods, whatever it is, take the time to do that. Because that will result in more presence. Another way that we can learn to be more present is by having like a mantra that kind of reaffirms us in the present moment. And one of like some that I like are like contentedness is right now. Love is right now. Abundance is right now. So you basically kind of just take anything that you need or anything that you want and you say it's right now. It's not out there. It's not in the future somewhere. It's not this, idea that is, it kind of is this idea that's in the quantum field, but we'll talk about that later as well. But, it's not out there. It's right now. Another way to be more present is refraining from the question of what am I going to do or what should I do or what do I even want to do today? Those types of questions remove you from the present moment. You don't need to ask yourself those questions. You will answer those questions. God will answer those questions. Nature will answer those questions. You don't need to ask yourself those questions. The other thing that you can do to become more present is to follow your excitedness moment to moment. And this is like the follow your bliss, right? This is what I call, it's so funny. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I started to kind of see the way that me dedicating more importance and more prevalence on presence started to kind of change things for me. And without any intention, I started having what I called random days. And I would call my friends and I would say, it was really weird. I got up this morning and I kind of had an inkling to do A. And then so I went and I did A. And then when I did A, this opportunity popped up. And then I had an inkling to do B. So then I did B. And then this happened. And then I had an inkling to do C. So I did C. And then that happened. That's what I call a random day, is when you wake up in the morning and you feel like doing something and you give it to yourself. You go and you do it. And you just follow the day entirely like that. You live in the present moment and you take the gifts that are given to you and they prompt you to then do the next thing. That is a random day. So I would suggest to you to dedicate more time to random days. To just have like a few days. If you're really having a hard time where you're like, Kim, I work like 60 fucking hours a week for this corporation and, I have a mortgage payment and I have this and I have that and there's no way that I can just wake up and decide what I want to do. Well, first I'm going to tell you that is fucking bullshit. You can actually make that decision, that is how you want your life to be. and you can manifest that. So I'm not going to buy that. But what I will tell you is if you struggle with presence, and if you I don't even want to use the words because I just don't even believe it. If you really can't find places in your day to integrate more, or places in your week or your month or whatever to integrate more presence, try a couple of random days a month where you literally pick a day and that's how you live it. You just go from your feelings. You go from your feelings. Whatever inklings, whatever things that just pop up where you're like, oh, you know what? Like I would really like to color, like in a coloring book right now. Or I'd really like to play super loud music and just jump on my bed. I mean, those don't really work for memory foam mattresses anymore. Trust me, I've tried it. It doesn't work very well. It's actually quite aggravating. But anyway, there's things that any type of inkling, just follow them and then see if you're prompted to do something else. Those little prompts, there's so much valuable information in them. Because number one, your body is learning how to honor the present moment, but you're also getting feedback at what genuinely excites you. And what I'm going to say about that is I think so much of our society is dumbed down that we don't know what that is anymore. I think we've become so detached from like feeling. Like it's almost like if we feel excited, then we're only going to be disappointed. But we're not understanding that that's just like a factor of life. Like that's just life. That's the yin and the yang. That doesn't mean that you have to cut yourself off from it. So yeah, have those random days. Dedicate a few days a month or a few days a week or whatever, a few hours a day to it just being random. You literally living from the hip. Random days are great. It helps you bring a little bit more balance into like the doing and the being, so that you can learn to kind of just incorporate a little bit more being into, your massive day of doing. Now, during this process of quote unquote becoming more present, I want you to give yourself a shit ton of grace because it's not easy. Okay, this is what we've been taught. It's been hammered into us that we just do, and that's our contribution to the world. You're undoing years of conditioning and you're also working to restructure the ways in which you be life. Not in which you do life, but in which you be life. So it takes time. It's a process. Have compassion for yourself. Have grace. All right. I think I'm going to wrap this up there. That is all that was put on me to say about presence. I hope it served you. If it did, and you would like to share any of your comments, or if you have a topic in the future that you would like me to discuss, you can reach me at connectedpodcast.us@gmail.com. Thank you all again for listening. Stay well and stay connected.